What's up, Flick Connection? This is Darren. Let's talk about Blade Runner 2049. Now, this is not a Blade Runner review, but I do want to discuss some things. I'm going to start off with some things I really liked about it, but I'm not going to get into any specifics, so no spoilers. And then at this particular time, I'm going to get into some spoilers, and I'll make sure you know so you can stop watching. You can come back and watch later. And definitely share your initial thoughts on this movie in the comments. Now, I say initial thoughts because it's been less than 24 hours since I've seen it, and there's still a lot to digest with this movie. So I don't want to overstate it, calling this like the greatest movie of all time or anything like that. But I will say it's very, very good. Now, I had this pegged early on in the year as the best movie of the year for me. This was going to be Flick Connection's pick as the Fury Road of 2017, and it is the best movie I've seen since Fury Road. Now, it's not going to win Best Picture. I do predict it'll win a handful of Academy Awards, and I predict it'll get nominated for more than it wins. Most of them in the technical aspects, special effects, costume design, production design. I think it's actually going to get a pretty broad sweep of those, similar to Fury Road. And these movies are similar in a lot of ways. They're not similar in terms of action, whereas Fury Road is just all out, non-stop action. Blade Runner is very subdued. It doesn't even really have action sequences as much as there are some moments of action in it. There's one or two sequences you can consider to be really an action sequence, but it is not an action movie, and that's a good thing. That's one of the things I'm really happy about. The original Blade Runner is not an action movie. It is a sci-fi movie, and it is sort of the pinnacle of sci-fi films. A lot of people would agree with that. That's not just coming from me. And there was a lot of expectations for this follow-up that's coming 35 years later. I believe that they got the right director, they got the right cast, they got some of the right crew, like the cinematographer, composers. Everything seemed to line up well for this movie, and it worked out. Everything was amazing. I think I looked at my watch just to check, and it was less than 15 minutes in, and I was already thinking, all right, when can I schedule to come see this in the theater again? So on that note, if you haven't seen it yet, my personal recommendation is to see this in IMAX, not in 3D. There's a lot of bright colors. It just really pops off the screen, and in my opinion, 3D glasses tend to dull that. It's like wearing sunglasses, so you're going to knock that down. And then there are some elements that might be cool to see in 3D, but the movie as a whole really isn't shot to be seen in 3D. So I recommend the IMAX. It just really comes off of that big screen. If you have the opportunity to do that, fork over the extra money for the IMAX. You can't go wrong there. It's almost 3 hours, and it doesn't feel like it at all. It felt like a normal length movie, and the reason for that is it's not just relentless. It's not just constantly going over things and over them, and it doesn't really stretch out. It's got a reasonable story. It's not an epic by any means, but it's patient where it needs to be. It really takes its time with certain scenes, and it paces itself very, very well. So there are several sequences where we sort of need some time, like it needs to sort of unfold slowly. It's the best way to give us the information that they're giving us, and they were able to do that. A lot of times, big budget movies like this, the studios will sort of insist, let's cut the time down, so they cut scenes like that short, just in order to deliver the information, move on to the next thing. Blade Runner 2049 does not do that. It's sort of like there were times in the theater where it was very intense, and then all of a sudden it's almost as if the movie just went, and it sort of took this big inhale and exhale, and it slowed down, and it gave you some amazing visuals, and it took a breath. Ryan Gosling was, I think, perfect. Not just in the movie, but in the role, like this very specific role. I think he was a perfect choice for that. I was concerned about Harrison Ford maybe being in the movie a little bit too much. Without giving anything away, I'll just say I think the way he was in this movie was perfect. It worked out so well. The reason I was kind of concerned about that is he's getting kind of up in years, and he doesn't seem like he's just not he's not 100% Harrison Ford anymore. And I was worried they might kind of be shoehorning him into this movie, and they absolutely did not. He needed to be there to tell the story that they were telling. The story that they were telling is not a rehash of the original. It plays off of it, but it does something new and interesting. And even last night, I had trouble getting to sleep because the movie's really thought provoking, but just the visuals were sticking with me, and like just my brain was super active after watching this, so it made it difficult to go to sleep. I can't remember the last time that happened with a movie, but that happened with Blade Runner. So with that, let's get into some of the spoilers. All right, this is only if you've seen it. I'm going to ruin some key elements, so please stop watching. You don't want to ruin this stuff. But I'll say, I thought, I'll put it this way. I was concerned that the sort of twist about Ryan Gosling's character being the child of a replicant, I was concerned that was going to be one of the major twists, and that they were giving it to you too early, and I was dead wrong. I was hoping I was going to be wrong. They gave it to you perfectly. They set you up for the other twist. They let you know about it just sort of as he's starting to wonder if he is, this person that he's hunting down. So all of that played out so well. I thought that was fantastic. The only thing I'm really struggling with, and it's not a downside, but it's the only thing I'm really struggling with, is the ending was a little lackluster. Now, I'll say, as simple as the climax was, it's a fairly simple setup in what happens. It's not this big epic, action sequence. I thought that was like pitch perfect for this movie, and it was intense. I mean, it was a white knuckling scene, really just because it was so well directed. But after the climax, sort of the conclusion to this story, I don't have a problem with it, but I was kind of surprised at how simple it was. Yet, the more I think about it, I like that. It plays well with the original. It didn't need like the big twist like Denis' last movie, Arrival, had, which had sort of this, mind-blowing twist. I was kind of expecting that just because he directed this, but the movie didn't need it. It had a story to tell, and I think it told it really well, and I think the story was a really interesting perspective playing off of the original. It sort of flips it a little bit but plays off of it in a very nice way. I loved that. Fans of the original probably know there's at least two literary references in the original Blade Runner. One is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and the other being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There are two literary references in Blade Runner 2049, and they are Pinocchio. Even though they don't say the name Pinocchio, he's referenced as a real boy more than once. So there's a Pinocchio references, which we could get more into that. Maybe I'll do a whole video on that, because I'm starting to kind of find other elements that relate to not the Disney version, but the original story of Pinocchio. So there's Pinocchio, and then Treasure Island, they just outright reference. And those are both coming-of-age stories. In a lot of ways, this movie is a coming-of-age story, even though Ryan Gosling's character, only ages a week. The movie only takes place over the course of a week. But emotionally, it's a coming-of-age story as he sort of battles with his humanity. And he sort of comes, almost full circle in terms of like a spiritual maturity from beginning to end of this movie. It's a very interesting character arc. I think that's where some of those coming of age references are coming from. I find that really interesting. It hasn't been enough time for me to really give you any sort of in-depth analysis of this movie. There's going to be a lot of that online as it comes out. I'm probably going to do more maybe around the time of the Blu-ray release for this movie. But for the meantime, I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are on the movie. I still have a lot more thoughts to gather. I don't know if you've noticed, I geeked out yesterday morning before seeing the movie and made this Blade Runner shirt. I'm going to be releasing another video showing you how I made it and how you can make your own. It's real easy. It took some time because of the detailing, but it's fairly easy. You can do it at home. I'm going to show you how to do it and get sort of a screen print quality. So be sure to be on the lookout for that video. And then, of course, I'm going to be coming back with my regular movie recommendations. So stay tuned for those. But if you sort of like the discussion style video, it's not really a review, but I'm encouraging you to reply to me and share your thoughts with me and the community in the comments section. If you sort of like that format, give this video a thumbs up and I'll consider doing more of them. I definitely want to do what you guys want to watch. So thanks for watching, and you will see me next time.